look at the Indian national movement in his own lens. Okay, what is the lens? Now, for example, a Dalit might look at the freedom struggle differently compared to somebody who is from an upper caste. It has a different meaning, the idea of freedom. Freedom does not mean same to everybody. Or if you take a nationalist, might look at the issue differently compared to a Marxist in that regard. To give you an example, like 1857 revolt, if you take, I think most of you would have read modern history, right? So if you look at 1857 revolt, Savarkar, he saw it as first war of Indian independence. He called it actually as the first. He's written a book called as First War of Indian Independence. But if you look at somebody like say R.C. Majumdar, okay, he says that it's not a first war of independence, neither it is a Sepoy mutiny. Or if you take the British historian's perspective, you have different, Outram is there, Benjamin Disraeli is there, okay. Or in fact you have our own, what is it, scholar like J.S. Mill is there. So now all these people, they are of the view that they say it is nothing more than a Sepoy mutiny. Okay, some say it is a Muslim conspiracy, one view is that, or some say it was a war between barbarians and civilized people. Barbarians means refers to whom? Those who are uneducated, uncultured. Who are these uncultured? They referred Indians as uncultured, and who they referred as civilized? The British. So this is what we call as different perspectives. So in Kannada there is a movie called as Ulidavaru Kandante. So it is from your perspective what you see as an event. That is what we are trying to understand here. We are trying to understand the view, that why such a view is there. We will also have to analyze and see is there any limitation of that view. So for example, if you take Dalit perspective of the Indian national movement, I told yesterday only when we explained Ambedkar, it is presented by Ambedkar, Periyar, and you have Kancha Illaya, he is one of the political scientists, I think from Andhra Pradesh, will know about, he will write more there. So these people, they analyze the Indian national movement differently. They will tell freedom, freedom for whom? So they question that in Indian freedom struggle, they say freedom only for the upper caste was achieved. They told this freedom has not resulted in improvement of the what we can say, the status of the lower caste, it has continued the same. So they say that it was nothing but transfer of power from the British to the upper caste Indians, and that is where you have Jyotiba Phule, who also can be brought under this category. He says that British rule is better than the Peshwa rule. So he told at least British brought modernization in that regard, which was there. That is their viewpoint. But you have critic also against this viewpoint, saying that because most of these views are highly critical of the Indian National Congress. They told Congress was more of a Brahmin party. Congress didn't work in the favor of depressed classes. But you have persons like Bipin Chandra who will defend Congress. He says that it is wrong to criticize Gandhi or Congress, because he says that there were two types of war which was going on. One between the Indians and the British, the other between Indians themselves on the ground of religion, caste, etc. So if you look at Indian National Congress, that's why I told modern history knowledge is needed here to understand this part. And that's why I told it will repeat modern history what you read in political science. If you actually look into modern history knowledge, the Indian National Congress till 1920s or 1930s, they never got involved in social reforms. They only focused on political reforms. If you see, Tilak also, he told political reforms are more important than social reforms. That was the other difference between Tilak's ideas and Ambedkar's idea. So we cannot tell who is right or who is not right. Each one of them had their own perspective. So for Ambedkar, he believed that social reforms should precede political reforms. Without social reforms, political reforms are meaningless. Yesterday also we read that without social economic rights, political rights are not good. But for the nationalist leaders like Tilak, Gandhi, they felt that if you try to do social reforms, that will kind of create lack of unity among Indians themselves, and that will be very difficult for you to take up the national movement. So that is the Dalit perspective what you analyze. Similarly, you have Marxist perspective. Okay, what Karl Marx himself has commented on the 1857 revolt. He does not consider 1857 as a true revolt. He said it is nothing but the landlords and feudal lords, they came together to fight against the East Indian Company. Why? Because they lost certain privileges. It was meaningless to the peasants, because peasants were not the major force of the 1857. It was mainly zamindars and these princes who lost power and position during British rule. Then you have M.N. Roy. I don't know, you have read about M.N. Roy as a thinker. He comes here again. M.N. Roy was highly critical of the Congress, especially of Gandhi. So why? Because he told Gandhi's leadership has to be questioned. Non-cooperation movement. Gandhi suspended the non-cooperation movement on Chauri Chaura incident. There are two ways of seeing. Bipin Chandra, the person who has written the book, The Struggle for India's Independence, he's defended Gandhi. He's defended Gandhi's suspension of Chauri Chaura. He told, if you look from Gandhi's point of view, he says that Gandhi wanted the movement to remain ahimsa. So there is a viewpoint is that is ahimsa a principle of Gandhi's idealism, that Gandhi believed in ahimsa, that is why he practiced it. No, he says that it was a strategy used by Gandhi. Gandhi understood very well in 1919 or 1922, the Indian people had not still acquired that much ability to withstand the British repression. So the moment you use any kind of violence, the British will come back with greater violence. That is normal strategy. You look at even protests now. Many times the police will be also waiting that people will use some kind of violence, because once you use violence, that's a different thing. Now police will justify their brute force. The state will show its brute force. And this is why if you take Anna Hazare, when he led the India against corruption, he tried to maintain the movement as much peaceful as possible. And that is what sometimes we can say, that state might provoke you. They will provoke you to use violence, because they are waiting for that opportunity. The moment you use violence, all hell will break. Now the police will get every legitimacy to use greater force against you. You cannot go and defend yourself. That was Gandhi. Gandhi believed that if you used violence, the British people would not be able to repress the British violence. So he wanted to use ahimsa as a strategy to ensure that unless we gain strength, till then. So if you see Quit India movement, in Quit India movement, Gandhi never criticized use of violence. He told, no, we cannot justify if British are using greater violence, it is normal for Indians to defend themselves. So that is why this Bipin Chandra says that Gandhi was a master strategist in India. But M.N. Roy's viewpoint is what? He represents the Marxist viewpoint. He says Gandhi was hand in glove with the business community in India, capitalist class. And Gandhi always never used to demand complete non-payment. If you see many of the Gandhi's movement, like Champaran, Keda, and what is that, Ahmedabad mill strike, Gandhi never took radical decisions. There was no movement where you say no tax, we won't pay. No, he told will pay tax within a certain limit, you cannot accept. So they interpreted was Gandhi was hand in glove with the capitalist class. He wanted to protect the capitalist class. He wanted to prevent the movement from becoming a mass movement in that regard. He didn't want the movement to acquire revolutionary character. And if it acquires revolutionary character, it is a challenge to Gandhi's leadership in that regard. So that is how M.N. Roy, he criticized Gandhi. And many Marxists criticized Congress as what it was dominated by business groups or business class. So take Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, they'll tell they all came from the elite sections in that regard. None of them understood the working class view. So that is the Marxist perspective. But within Marxism there are two perspectives. There are defenders, like Bipin Chandra is also a Marxist perspective, but he will defend the Indian National Congress. He says that what M.N. Roy failed to understand, that we will read, when we read M.N. Roy, we say that M.N. Roy has committed the guilt of heteronomy. Okay, meaning of that is that he is trying to read Indian national movement, or he is trying to apply his concept through a Western lens. West is different, India is different. If you go to Europe, in Europe Marxism grew. Why? Europe, there was mainly growth of capitalism, mainly growth of industries, working class were exploited, that is why working class rose in revolt. But if you take India, it is different, right? India is not a class based society, we are a caste based society. Even today if you look into why left parties are not so strong in electoral politics, there is a funny saying, we say there is no left in India, right is not always right. Both extreme level in both sides is not. Why the left has declined in India? They say because they have failed to understand the Indian society and how systems work. So they mainly go behind class based politics, but in India caste is very strong. So any political party which does not play the caste card, they won't have electoral impact in that regard. So in that regard you can see you have Bipin Chandra who comes to the defense of Gandhi in that regard, but you have other scholars, you have Sumit Sarkar, etc., who have been highly critical of the Congress and the methods what they used. They say these are all bourgeois. Bourgeois refers to business community or capitalist backing. Congress was backed by the capitalist. That is their viewpoint. And then you have nationalist viewpoint, Aurobindo Ghosh, Savarkar. So they give a different point of view. They say the idea of nation. They say why should we go behind the Western explanation of nation? If you go by a nation, definition of nation among the Western scholars, I think you have read in polity now, what is a state and a nation? Nation is a group of people coming together on a common mission, and what is a state? State has 4 elements: sovereignty, territory, government. But Savarkar or Aurobindo Ghosh in that regard, they didn't see it separately. Especially Aurobindo Ghosh, he saw a nation as a living entity, something which is alive in that regard. It is not artificial, it is natural, and he equated the nation to religion in that regard. For Aurobindo Ghosh, nation represented, what you can say, the Hindu civilization in that regard. So he brought lot of comparison between the Hindu philosophy and the idea of nation. So he can say, he says that a nation is not a piece of land, it is not a mass of human being, it is not a figure of speech, or it is not a figment of imagination. It is a living entity, and he compares India to Bharat Mata, that is the Durga Shakti which is there. And he says that it is a living entity, it is not like West explanation is more of a static concept, it is an evolving concept in that regard. And he disagrees with the moderates, because moderates believe that India is not a nation, we are a nation in the making. Okay, there are a lot of, but Aurobindo Ghosh says that we are a nation in that regard, we have been always a nation in that regard, but he says that people have to be awakened to make them realize in that regard, we are already a nation, we have one common entity. But again, this has been criticized, as I told, by Marxist scholars, saying that such an idea of nation leads to cultural nationalism. Okay, so you can say the current ideology of the BJP is based on cultural nationalism. So they have that has led to even more narrow things, that nation and Hinduism is been equated. So that has made other religious beliefs secondary into the idea of the Hindu nationalism in that regard. So this was one critic which is there. And V. Savarkar, he says that the 1857 revolt was the first war of Indian independence, but many disagreed. They told, first of all, was there an idea of nation in 1857? Was India actually a nation in 1857? So if you look at the 1857 revolt, like scholars like Bipin Chandra or R.C. Majumdar, they don't agree that it is a first war of independence. Why? They say that independence is for a nation. When you didn't have a nation, independence for whom? So Jhansi Rani Lakshmibai participated, Kunwar Singh participated, Nana Sahib participated, Bahadur Shah too was the symbolic leader, but they say none of them had an idea of a common nation. Means what definition? People having common emotional connect towards a land, coming together, that is what we call a nation. So as you can say, every nation did not become a state. For example, Palestine, it is a nation, but it has not yet got statehood. Why? They have their own land, they have their own government, they have their own people living in that land, but what they lack is sovereignty. Palestine is not recognized by many countries across the world. Take Taiwan is another example. Taiwan has their own land, they have their own government, etc., but only 14 countries across the world recognize Taiwan, including India does not have any kind of official recognition to Taiwan. So we can say every nation does not become a state, but nation is nothing but a concept. It is about what? People having a common connect. So they are telling what was the common connect here? There was no common connect. Each one of them participated in the revolt for their own reasons. Take Kunwar Singh was a zamindar, British took away the land, that is why he got affected by it, that is why he jumped into the 1857 revolt. Jhansi Rani Lakshmibai, there is no doubt about her bravery, but why she participated in the revolt? Because her son, adopted son, was not recognized as the ruler, because British had brought the doctrine of lapse, what we call. So that is why they didn't recognize her. So Jhansi actually, Lakshmibai actually had told the British also, if you recognize my adopted son, she will keep Jhansi safe for the British. It is only when British failed to accept her demands, she jumped into the rebellion camp. So their point is that how then you can call this as the first war of Indian independence? They were not fighting for independence. Most of them were asking for the privileges which they had lost during the British rule, because once British came, there were many sections in Indian society, they lost privileges. For example, artisans, painters. Who were the main encouragers of painters? The emperors. They gave them money, they encouraged art. Once British came, all these kingdoms, they came under British control. Now they were only living on British pension. From where will they encourage arts? They lost jobs. So they went back to agriculture. Zamindars, they brought Zamindari, what is that, Permanent Settlement Act, Lord Cornwallis. They created Zamindars, okay. Why? Because they wanted to collect tax and they didn't want direct to collect tax from the peasants. So they created a middleman, that is the Zamindar, and Zamindar will be given this much of land. From that land he has to collect. There was this permanent settlement, 10 by 11th parts will be taken by the East Indian Company, 1 by 11th the Zamindar can keep it. But they were very stringent in tax collection. There is something called a sunset clause. On this particular day, before the sun sets, you have to pay the revenue, and British were, they didn't have any empathy. If you don't pay, ruthlessly they took land from the Zamindar, they dispossessed the Zamindar. Now Zamindar overnight he became pauper. Pauper means what? He has lost his status, this angered him, so he joined the revolt. Why? Because he was happy with the Mughal system which was there. They were happy in that system, the privileges what they enjoyed. And you have conservative sections, they also joined the revolt. Why? Because in 1829 they abolished sati and they tried to bring Western education. This angered the conservatives, so they also joined the revolt in the regard. So each one of them had their own reasons to join the revolt, but all of them were not bound by a common emotion that there was something called as India, because the nation was not, the national feeling had not been born. So that is why they disagree with Savarkar, saying that no, this is not the first war of independence. So this is what we will be studying here about what we mean by perspectives of Indian national movement. So there is a Dalit perspective, there is a Marxist perspective, there is a nationalist perspective, there is a liberal perspective. So if you see the question paper, this is a guaranteed question. Every year they have asked one perspective. I think in last 3 years, Marxist perspective they have asked twice. Same to comment on Marxist perspective of Indian national movement, comment on the Dalit perspective of the Indian national movement. Straightforward question. So if you are prepared well with good analysis, enough. And the other part is that this is one area what we will be studying in Indian national movement, because many people think, sir, should we read Indian national movement like prelims point of view? Please don't worry, here we are not reading into facts and all. Like prelims is different, prelims you will read like Brahmo Samaj was started by whom. In political science they can't ask who started Brahmo Samaj, they will ask only analysis based question. And that too they have specified in syllabus what they are going to ask. They have specified, one is the perspective of Indian national movement, second one the strategies. There are various strategies, Gandhi had one strategy of Indian national movement, Ambedkar had his own strategy, Subhash Chandra Bose had his own strategy. So we need to understand the different strategies. Moderates had their own strategy, revolutionaries had their own strategy. So here we are not going into like prelims, we won't go into every event. Largely we are understanding, one, the moderate strategy of freedom struggle. So there we will be reading who are moderates. Moderates, you have Surendranath Banerjee, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, etc. The moderates dominated they controlled the Congress from 1885 to 1905. And their idea was what? Their strategy was what? Many of the moderates, they believed actually the British rule in India was a blessing in disguise. In fact, many wrote articles saying that it's a God sent gift that British have arrived in India. So they are going to modernize India like what they did, because they never understood. Their understanding of colonialism was, it was developing. And some of them, they never believed, they never demanded for complete independence. They mainly asked for dominion status, or within the British system they wanted more powers to be given. And their idea was that it was not the fault of the British, the conditions in India, it was the fault of the East Indian Company and their servants. So they believed that people in Britain don't know what is happening in India. That is why if you see this Dadabhai Navroji, he started many associations in London to convince the Britain people that what the East Indian Company was trying to do. That is why he wrote drain theory, to explain that how this East Indian Company was looting India. Okay. So their strategy was what? Mainly it was prayer, petition, protest, trying to bring constitutional reforms. They believed in constitutional methods in that regard. They didn't believe in use of violence. They didn't believe in mass struggle. That was their strategy. So then we will be discussing what are the positives and negatives of this strategy. So even Gandhi has recognized, even though moderates failed, but what did Gopal Krishna Gokhale write? He told, in our failure, we are sowing the seeds of future success. So there is contribution from them also. It's not that moderates are completely waste. They built their own, because they see at that point of time, they felt India was not ready for mass struggle. That is the defense what you can bring. Then you have revolutionaries. Okay, so you have individual revolutionaries, you have group based revolutionaries. So initially it was individual revolutionaries, like this Irish, they were inspired by Irish nationalism in that regard. So what was the method they used? Killing officers, unpopular British. I think Pradeep sir would have explained the story of Madan Lal Dhingra in that regard. You know that this Madan Lal Dhingra, what we call, he went to London, to study. He was studying, I think, medicine or something in that regard. And he used to take part, this Savarkar used to organize something called as, what is that? India House, where every Sunday they used to have meetings, nationalist meetings. They used to preach about nationalism, inspire youths to sacrifice for Mother India. So I think in one of the meet, this Savarkar, when he was delivering a speech, he found this youth who was disinterested, not paying any attention. He got angry, scolded him, what are you doing? We are discussing about future of India, but you are not interested. And he told, you get out of here, you don't stay here. Parallelly in London, there was one more association which British had organized. They also used to do the Sunday meetings in that regard. Mainly they were trying to preach the youths about how British is good for India, British rule, brainwashing in that regard. So this fellow went and joined there. He started attending meetings there. And in one meeting, because you can see, like both sides they used to call different, like Lenin was invited to India House to speak on nationalism. Similarly, they used to invite British Governor Generals, and this Curzon Willie, this British intelligence officer, he was invited once to call. And this youth, what we told, he was there in that meeting. So Curzon Willie knew him. So he told, what are you doing here? So he told, I have come to study medicine. My father thinks that I am wasting my time. I am joined this Indian nationalist camp, because his father was a famous surgeon back in India. So he told, okay young man, that's good that you have joined here. And this fellow will ask him that, can you write a letter to my father saying that, I am not wasting my time here, I am engaged. So he'll tell, do you have pen? So he'll tell, okay, I have pen. He'll remove a gun and he'll shoot him dead. Then they'll come to know it was a strategy done by the revolutionaries to assassinate, because this Curzon Willie was an intelligence officer. He used to build intelligence on different national movements. So that is why they shot him dead. So that is their strategy. Yeah, it has its own advantages, it has its own disadvantages, that we will be analyzing. That was one example. There are different. Bhagat Singh, his contribution is also no less. Hindustan Socialist Republican Army, Punjab Naujan Sabha. Okay. So we have to compare and contrast that what were these strategies used by them. Okay, we are not here into individuals, we are more interested in strategy, revolutionary strategy, moderate strategy, extremist strategy, Gandhian mass struggle, the Gandhi phase of mass struggle. It was new, his strategy was different. So if you look at Gandhi, we say the transformation of Gandhi from Mohandas to Mahatma happened in South Africa, and when he came to India, he went and as Mohandas, but he came back as Mahatma, and he became a Mahatma in India. Who gave him the title Mahatma? It was Rabindranath Tagore. So Gandhi sharpened his leadership skills in South Africa. He experimented many things, and South Africa was a good laboratory for him to experiment. Why? Because South Africa was similar here. There also Muslims, Hindus, Christians, everybody were there. There also racism, problems they were facing, untouchability. And you can see Gandhi learnt many lessons there. One of the important lessons what he learnt, a leader should be brave enough to take unpopular decisions. You cannot always play to the tunes of what people demand. Because when Gandhi took many of the decisions there in South Africa, there also he was attacked by upper caste Indians. In once they had to evacuate Gandhi wearing a woman's dress in that regard, because they would have killed Gandhi in that regard. He was slapped by many of his followers. But still he didn't budge on his stand. And in South Africa it gave him a lot of confidence, the belief that Indians can be united irrespective of their caste differences, religious differences, etc. And when Gandhi was highly successful in South Africa, a different program, but he was not able to end racism or liberate, because he came back to India in 1915, what we celebrate as what? Bharatiya Pravasi Divas. And Gandhi's political guru, whom we call, is Gopal Krishna Gokhale in that regard. So Gopal Krishna Gokhale advised one Gandhi that he told, when you come back to India, don't jump into the movement immediately. You tour India for 1 year, understand India first, then you launch a movement. So Gandhi toured India, he didn't take part in the Indian National Congress, he understood what India's pulse was. And that is when finally Gandhi decided, because in Champaran Satyagraha, I think who was the person? Shukla. He convinced Gandhi to come, Rajkumar Shukla, he convinced Gandhi to come and take up the leadership. And this we say is the beginning of the Gandhian era in Indian national movement, and Gandhi started to grow from strength to strength in that regard. And we have to study what was Gandhi's strategy here. You can understand, broadly it is not about we have to know every movement. Strategy, one broad strategy, what Gandhi for initial period used something called as struggle, truce struggle, what we call as STS. If you understand the non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, what you will see that there will be a phase of struggle, active phase, then it will go into passive phase, then again it will come back to active phase. Why? Because Gandhi believed that India's fight against British is a long drawn battle, it is not will end in 1 year or 2 years. And he understood, that is what we say Gandhi is also a mass psychologist, he understood the masses very well. He told masses do not have unlimited energy to take part in the national movement for ending ages, they have their limitation. See, if you go protest on the road, you will protest for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 10th day you will start feeling the energy will dissipate. And Gandhi wanted to do what? Once energy dissipates, the movement will start losing momentum. Immediately he suspended the movement and pushed the movement towards what? Social reforms, what we can say, promoting communal harmony, abolition of untouchability, that is what we, in the idea of social reforms in that regard. And again when he felt that the people have gained back their strength, again he started a political movement. So see, non-cooperation movement, Chauri Chora incident he suspended. Some say he suspended Chauri Chora incident because there is use of violence, that was true, but also Gandhi was waiting for an opportunity to suspend the movement because he understood the momentum was being lost, and he got that opportunity with what? The Chauri Chora incident, where he used the violence as one of the reasons that I am suspending the movement. Second one, if you look at Gandhi's movement, none of the Gandhi's movement made any radical demands. Take Champaran, take Ahmedabad mill strike, everything is a compromise. If they tell they will give you 60%, he demands 60%, then he will come and settle for 40%. None of his movement had what? We will never pay tax. No, he told we are going to pay tax, only to a limited extent. Because Gandhi believed that too much radical efforts won't give results. And that was one of the also criticism of Gandhi by these M.N. Roy and especially followers of Bhagat Singh, that Punjab Naujan Sabha. They also criticized Gandhi, saying what? Gandhi didn't do much enough to get Bhagat Singh released, and Gandhi was responsible for Bhagat Singh's death. But if you go through Bipin Chandra, see, its history is always the writer's creation. Now you have Tippu na Kanasugolo, you have Tippu na Nija Kanasugolo. There is truth and faction in both of them. It's, see, the point is that now you cannot go back and you cannot change it, right? You cannot go, yeah, it is true that Tippu Sultan did massacre Hindus. It is also true that Tippu Sultan was more modernized compared to the Indian rulers. And was Tipu Sultan an anti-national? That we cannot go because the nation concept only was not there at that point of time. You can say he was one of the rulers among many rulers who tried to protect his kingdom. Yeah, he did follow a certain religious persecution principle. So now if you tell whose is true, is Tippu Kanasagulu true or Tippu's Nijakunu? There is both truth and there is both false in both. So that is why we say history is always in the hands of the historian, that way he presents. But best way to present history is always to go by facts and to go by evidence, what you can present it to it. And that is what we say, na, history is like that only. History is about you can take any figure and you can look at him differently. So I had a friend, extreme right wing. Okay, that's what I told you. You be right wing, no problem, no wrong. You be left wing, no problem. Don't be extreme. Don't go at an extreme level and you tell everything what you do under right wing is correct, or don't go to extreme left wing and tell whatever Modi does is wrong. That is the problem in today. We live in a society today, either you are here, either you are there, you can never be middle path. You make no, Modi's foreign policy is good, yeah, this fellow is a right wing, completely Modi, ass liquor in that regard. Or if you tell no, this Modi's foreign policy is wrong, then the right wing will attack you. Oh, this is anti-Modi, is anti-Hindu, is anti-everything, anti this thing, everything you do. The reason happens that, no, that is what we say, in history the events can be presented both ways. But in Indian history the left wing interpretation is strong, rightly also, because left wing produced intellectuals. The right wing was not able to do so. You can present a right wing history but provide it based on evidence. Nothing that is rightly which can be accepted. So same problem here. Gandhi, as you know, one of my friend who is extreme right wing. So he also does research and all. So he told, if you look at Gandhi, Gandhi had only women, what is that, help in that regard. Why he didn't keep men as help? Gandhi was a pervert in that regard. That was his perspective. So that is what we say, anything can present it differently the way you want, and you can rebuild history, and that is why we say textbooks are an important source, because the present textbooks is what the future generation will build, and that is what we say, our textbooks should be free from politics. The moment you do saffronization or you do the other way around in that regard, now true history won't be presented. Now if I write a history book from today, for my son who is there, I write no Hindi that Gandhi was a traitor. I can present it differently. I can tell Nathuram Godse is my national leader. This person grows up reading the same thing. That's what I told you. History is present in books. What you present in books, that is what the future generation will read. And that is what we say, that when we build these books, you include everything, include right wing, include left wing, include center to the right, left. Everybody should know every perspective, then the person should be chosen, left to choose that what he believes is correct. So Gandhi's strategy was also criticized by many, but defended by many, like Bipin Chandra was a defender of Gandhian strategy. Who are the critics? Mainly M.N. Roy in that regard. And that is what you have Ramchandra Guha, he writes a very good quote. He says Gandhi is one figure who has been criticized by the left, who has been criticized by the right, who has been criticized by the Ambedkarites in that regard. But everybody wants to claim Gandhi's legacy. A classic example for that, you take Swachh Bharat program. What is the symbol of Swachh Bharat program? Gandhi spectacles. It is spectacles, but it is Gandhi spectacles. It is not Savarkar spectacles, it is not Ambedkar spectacles, it is not somebody else's spectacles. Why? Because it was the same Gandhi who was acceptable to all sections of society. That all the critics were there. So take in the non-cooperation movement. So imagine the Muslim community back then. They were very more conservative back then. So Muslim community, they never allowed a man to address their women without being blindfolded. If you want to address Muslim women in a room, they used to blindfold the man and then he has to address. One person they allowed to address without being blindfolded was Gandhi. Why? Gandhi was acceptable to them, and that is why I told. Gandhi was a Hindu, yes. Gandhi was a secular, yes. Gandhi was everything, and that is why they said that Gandhi was one popular figure that no other national leader could challenge Gandhi. Take for example, in Pune Pact, Gandhi and Ambedkar developed differences, but Ambedkar was made, finally agreed to Gandhi's decision. Jawaharlal Nehru and Gandhi developed differences, but again Jawaharlal Nehru followed what Gandhi dictated. Subhash Chandra Bose and Gandhi developed differences, but again Subhash Chandra Bose told, I cannot continue with Congress, with the Congress cadre rooting Gandhi, and that is why he told, I will rightly resign, and he formed a separate organization called, within the Congress, called as Forward Bloc. And that is why Ramchandra Guha says that Gandhi didn't just follow some ideas, he was very practical and he knew that how to reach out what things. So we say that having ideas is only not important, you have to know how to implement those ideas, and he says that Gandhi's strategy was more practical compared to all of them. But that is what we analyze and see, that what is the positives in Gandhi's strategy, what is the critic, and that is why we see this as the phase of Gandhian mass struggle. Okay. So we don't worry that we are going into civil disobedience, no, we will study the strategy part. In political science, 1 year they have asked a question, comment on the Satyagraha as a political strategy. Many students what they will write off, Gandhi's civil disobedience movement, you won't get marks. That is the difference between political science and modern history. Here the question is more specific, question is about what? Satyagraha as a political strategy. It is not about, you have to tell what is Satyagraha. If you take Satyagraha, Gandhi's concept, he developed in South Africa, and he was influenced by this concept called as what you call civil disobedience. Okay, not civil disobedience, there is a word for it. No, I am not getting that word. I forgot that word anyway. So there is an English word for it. Okay. So if any online students can remember the word. Okay, anyway, this is a word. So the difference is that when we say in the Western concept, I am not getting that word, there also you use non-violence, but there non-violence you use it as a strategy because you feel that you are not in a position to tackle your opponent. So you use non-violence. But Gandhi's Satyagraha, he believed that the ahimsa is the means as well as the ends. It is not that only when you are weak you use ahimsa, even when you are strong you practice ahimsa. And Gandhi, that is what he told ahimsa is not the weapon of the weak, it is the weapon of the strong, because you need lot of moral courage to practice ahimsa. And if some person comes and slaps you, suddenly you get angry and you will try to slap him back. That is what Gandhi told, if somebody slaps you, show it the other way. So Gandhi's idea was that you have to hate the evil, not the evil doer. So you don't develop hatredness towards the person who is excelling, develop hatredness towards the qualities, not the person in that regard. So we will be going into deciphering what was Gandhi's strategy, what was his concept of Satyagraha, how he used Satyagraha. So in your answer you have to tell how Satyagraha enabled Gandhi to dent the British domination. So he used Satyagraha in civil disobedience movement, and it led to British got confused. They were in catch-22 situation, means what? If you use too much of force, Gandhi and Indians would have claimed it is a violation of human right. If they did not use any force, Gandhi would have claimed moral victory, and British did not know what to do, and that is why finally they came to an agreement and they told Gandhi, come and sign the Irwin Pact. So when Gandhi went to Irwin Pact, he put up 11 demands. He did put up one demand to release Bhagat Singh. That is what Bipin Chandra said. He put a demand, release Bhagat Singh. But Irwin was very adamant. He told no chance. If you are going to ask for release of Bhagat Singh, the whole 11 demands what you put up, it will fall flat. You won't hate. So he also asked, at least don't release him, cancel the death sentence and make it life imprisonment. But Irwin didn't agree, he was very adamant, and that is why finally that that was not included under the 11 demands. But now what happened that the Punjab Naujan Sabha, they had a grievance saying that Gandhi didn't do much to get Bhagat Singh released, and you can see they showed black flags when Gandhi went back to Karachi to sign this what we can say Karachi resolution, where they wanted to promote this Gandhi Irwin Pact. So in this regard we will understand what is Gandhi's strategy, what is Satyagraha. Now there is criticism also against Satyagraha. Gandhi himself has told what is the limitation of Satyagraha. Gandhi has told, because Gandhi practiced Satyagraha in British provinces, he also used Satyagraha as a tool against a princely state called as Rajkot, which is a small princely state. He didn't succeed. And Gandhi told why he didn't succeed. When you aim satyagraha, it should be aimed against the actual oppressor, not the intermediary, because in princely states the prince was not the actual oppressor, it was the British. So he used satyagraha against the prince didn't change because he was least bothered about what is going to happen. Nelson Mandela has also spoken about it. He told satyagraha will be only successful if your oppressor has a conscience. He has sympathy, he has empathy in heart. Satyagraha is about what? Changing his heart, changing him to make him realize the good. But if you don't have conscience only, now whatever you do is correct. You kill, you don't have any conscience, you don't have human values itself. Satyagraha won't work in that regard. And you can also speak about how satyagraha has been used as a tool, not only in India. Martin Luther King used it in America, Nelson Mandela used it in South Africa, Anna Hazare used it in recent times in India as against corruption. Again, so here you should not write only about civil disobedience, you have to write how satyagraha is a strategy, how it is a tool as a strategy, what are the positives, what are the drawbacks, then you have to write your opinion. So what happened when they gave this question, many students started writing Gandhi's civil disobedience movement. For 10 marks they will give you only 2. Why they will give you only 2? You have not answered the question. You have only, they would have asked you the question that write about Gandhi's civil disobedience movement. They didn't ask the question like that. They asked what? Satyagraha as a political strategy. So in these areas, you don't need to be worried about should I read whole of modern history? No. We have specified perspectives of Indian national movement, strategies used in the Indian national movement, and largely we will be reading about civil disobedience movement, non-cooperation movement, quit India movement. Don't worry that we have to know every fact, no, just an analysis. Positives of non-cooperation movement, why non-cooperation came to an end, what was the strategy they used here, what was the difference between NCM and non-cooperation, civil CDM, how was the strategy change in quit India. Now to give a broad analysis, take CDM, NCM and QAM, quit India, short form I am telling. In CDM and NCM, Gandhi used STS, struggle, true struggle, but in quit India, he used struggle to victory. There was no passive phase, it was active phase. On August 8th, they announced quit India, they told do or die. The movement will only come to an end with India achieving its freedom. So this kind of analysis we have to bring to understand these movements. Apart from this, here we will be also reading about peasant movements, tribal movements, worker movements, same thing. So the best source for this is your spectrum and the class notes. In class notes we have referred to different books and added some content. Along with spectrum, if you refer class notes, nothing else is required. Spectrum don't read end to end. Okay, that is some students will say, sir, spectrum is 800 pages, how to read? No, there is a wrong strategy. If you actually will go into spectrum, not more than 250 pages is important in spectrum. See, half of the spectrum, if you take last half, it is useless because it is post-independent India, not required. First half, they have written a lot about this European conquest, too much details. If you go to last pages, they give you a summary. Every spectrum in last page, it has a summary. Just read the summary, that is enough. In class anyway, we would have given you the story. Go back, read this summary, that is enough. But spectrum has everything. Spectrum has viewpoints which is required for political science. If you see in spectrum in boxes, they have given certain viewpoints. That is highly useful for PSIR. Okay. That I will tell you once we start, that how to read spectrum. So spectrum and class notes is more than enough for this part of the syllabus. You don't need to refer any other source. And in between also I will be solving certain questions in class itself. There I will give any extra content as when we proceed. So this is regarding your Indian national movement part in your part B of your syllabus. The next important part is constitution. Okay. This is same to same what is there in your Lakshmikant. Okay. But the difference here will be In Lakshmikant is more of a prelims book, but now also they have included mini analysis in the new edition. So Lakshmikant, if you do selective reading, that will be useful for political science, and some chapters are direct. If you just read Lakshmikant, it is more than enough to write good answers. But along with this, you have to read certain editorial pages regularly. Refer Hindu, or if you have a choice, if you have access of Indian Express, you can read, because in Indian Express and Hindu, especially Indian Express, they have very good articles with respect to constitution, because most of your political scholars, well noted scholars, they write in Indian Express, like whom? Pratap Banu Mehta. Recently also you see Pratap Banu Mehta had written an article in Indian Express on this Rahul Gandhi's sentencing, okay. Leaving apart his ideology and all, his quality is the way he expresses things in a very simplified way. See, there are two ways you can read in Hindu pages. Some editorial you won't understand only, like you will say, what this fellow has written, kya likha hai. But he will write in such a way that even a common man can understand. It's like he is trying to dissect and try to explain things, that how things are working. So that is why many toppers and many people, they use his name in answers when they write his viewpoints. So recently he one viewpoint which was very nice, which I added into my notes. He told that tyranny is a stepchild of democracy. Well, democracy and tyranny are brothers in that regard. There is no great difference. Any moment democracy can step into tyranny. It become what? Majoritarian rule in that regard. So these type of quotes you will get lot of in Indian Express, Hindu. Don't try to follow them and read every article what they give. Don't do like that. First try to identify what is the issue. Then you read one or two editorial pages. There only you will get off. It might be Pratap Banu Mehta, it might be Yogendra Yadav, or it might be Srinath Raghavan in that regard. These are all the popular ones who write. So along with Lakshmikant, you need to read what? Editorial. So if you are following our PSIR Telegram channel, okay, we have a Telegram channel for PSIR. There every day we will upload one or two articles which are important from exam point of view. You just go through them. Don't need to make notes also. You just read them. You will understand. Now some people will tell, sir, so much to read, how to. Nobody will make notes of all this. If you just read, understand, that will stick into your head, okay, and this will keep repeating. So once you keep reading regularly, you will know. Then later we will tell you how to make notes of this, okay. But starting part will be always understanding the constitution, that is built with Lakshmikant and the classroom. So if you have completed polity classes, even better, because it is much easier for you to understand, because the same thing, it will be like a revision for you to read again. So what one will be reading about the making of what? Of Indian constitution. So basically here we will have to discuss about the constituent assembly which was formed, the structure of constituent assembly, few debates in constituent assembly. Like what are few debates? So why is Lok Sabha called as the lower house, and why is Rajya Sabha called as the upper house? So if you take in Britain, we are influenced by Britain, right? In Britain it is called as House of Commons. Upper house is called as what? House of Lords. Commons mean common men, lower class people. Upper house, aristocrats. That is why it is called as upper house. Same thing in lower. So in debate in Constituent Assembly, when Ambedkar used the word lower house, I forgot the name of the member. One of the member objected to it. He told we should not use the word lower house. This symbolizes the British, it represents. So he told it should be house of people and the Council of States. So we will be going through different debates in Constituent Assembly. When they made constitution, you had different perspectives. You had an Ambedkar's perspective of constitution, you had a Gandhian perspective of constitution. Like Gandhian supporters, they were unhappy with the constitution. They told we wanted sitar and veena, but what they gave us was an English band. It is symbolic, that we wanted Indian elements into the constitution, but these people have just blindly copied the foreign elements. Then you have the Marxist perspective also. Some say the constitution only gives procedural rights, there is no substantive rights. For example, you have fundamental rights. I don't know, fundamental rights is very costly to get it. You can tell you have what is that, constitutional remedies under Article 32. You can go to Supreme Court if you are fundamental. How you will go to Supreme Court? You have to go to Delhi now. You have to go to Delhi, you have to file a petition, very costly. Delhi has only one bench, there is no regional benches. So it is very easy to tell, yeah, fundamental rights are protected, but to get to access that fundamental rights, not so easy, it is difficult in that regard. There is a perspective saying that, is there. And you have a European perspective. They say these waste fellows, these constitutional makers, what they have done, carbon copy of 1935, they have borrowed blindly from different events. These are the criticism which came about. So Ambedkar gave answers to many of the criticism. One criticism was what, this is a carbon copy or patchwork. So Ambedkar told, okay, yeah, we don't agree this is not a patchwork, but he told this is a beautiful patchwork which has been ever created. And he told why, he told who in the world can claim patent over equality. You cannot tell French Revolution only as equality, they created equality, we borrowed from him. So there is nothing wrong in borrowing good values from different countries, but he disagreed that this is not a carbon copy. Take 1935 Act, there is a question they asked, 1935 Act is a carbon copy of the, present day Indian constitution is a carbon copy of 1935. You have to write, they will write comment. So you cannot start your answer by saying yes I think so, no I don't think so, answer is ended, no. If you have to tell Indian constitution is an evolutionary document, Indian constitutional makers have borrowed many elements, in that 1935 Act is the structural framework of the present day Indian constitution. Then you go on to write that what are the similarities. You can write one similarity is what, the federal system has been borrowed, separation of subjects has been borrowed, integrated judiciary has been borrowed, Union Public Service Commission, State Public Service Commission, Joint Public has been borrowed. But it is wrong to say that it is a carbon copy. Why? We have not blindly copied the 1935 Act, we have made certain changes. One, they spoke about separate electorate. Here we have joint electorate with reserved constituencies. Their Privy Council was the highest court of appeal. Here Supreme Court is the highest court of appeal. There they had given the powers of residuary subjects with the Viceroy. Here we have given it to the Parliament. But yes, structurally we have borrowed the British system, but not a carbon copy. That should be your answer. You get my point? So the questions in these areas will come like this, okay, the making of the constitution. The other criticism was that Constituent Assembly, it was not an directly elected body, because if you look at Indian Constituent Assembly, partly indirectly elected, partly nominated. So princely states they nominated, provinces they indirectly elected. So they say people didn't have a say, people's opinion is not reflected. For that you have answer given by Granville Austin. Granville Austin has written a book, the book is called as The Constitution, the Cornerstone of a Nation, that is on Indian Constitution what is written. When you read that book, what you will understand, Granville Austin says that it is wrong to say that there was no kind of people's consultation. He gives examples that how they consulted people. One, in Constituent Assembly, whenever any decision was taken, there were three kinds of discussions they did. One, among the committees, second, within the house, third, public consultation was held. People could come and propose things. So he roots it out, saying that it does not have people's opinion. Second, if you look at Indian Constitution, in last 100 years, it has been amended, so say last 70 years, it has been amended more than 100 times. So many say that look, the constitution, they have given a constitution which was not acceptable, that is why we have brought lot of amendments. But the answer for that is what the Nehru says, that no constitution in the world can be a static document. Constitution is a living entity, it is organic, it will grow with time. You cannot tell the society remains the same, the society will change. So when we got independence and we formed the first constitution, there was Congress system. What is Congress system? Congress was ruling at both center and state. There was no problem. Why there was no problem? There was no defections now. Where you will defect to? The other parties were not strong enough to for you to do it. But by 1970s and 1980s, Indian political scenario changed. Regional parties came to power. For the first time, 50% of the state governments were ruled by non-Congress government. Political competition increased. Now horse trading became more. Defections started happening, so we had to amend the constitution. So Nehru's argument is that every constitution is a reflection of its society. How society changes, the constitution also changes. If you have a very static constitution, which cannot change according to times, the constitution will become irrelevant. That is why the constitutional makers allowed amendment to be possible. The third argument what B.L. Fadia he brings is that some suggested that if we come to power, because first constitution was formed, elections was held later, in 1952 elections was held, constitution came into 1950. So some people told, who disagreed with the constitution, if we come to power, we will change the constitution. And what B.L. Fadia says that the first election what happened, it is an example that people agreed with the constitution. Why? Those who are all part of constituent assembly, who were part of drafting committee, they all won the elections. Those who told actually we will change the constitution, they all lost the elections. So indirectly people had supported the present constitution. And we have seen India has been ruled by different political parties having different ideologies. So for example, Atal Bihari Vajpayee government came to power. For the first time the BJP came to power. They also appointed a committee, National Commission to review the working of the constitution. Venkata Chalaya was the head of the committee. That committee also recommended what? There is no need to change the constitution, constitution structurally sound. Yeah, you can bring certain changes with respect to its functioning. Sarkaria Commission, it also told what? The constitution is correct, what they have decided center-state relation, only it brings certain functional changes. So it is an indication that irrespective of different political parties coming to power, based on different ideologies, none of them have gone on to change and reject the present constitution. So these are the defense saying that this constitution is a carbon copy, this constitution has been not supported by the people of India in that regard. So that is what we are going into the analysis. So here we will go into Uniform Civil Code, we will analyze in Constituent Assembly what was the debate, Article 370 what was the debate in Constituent Assembly. So our attempt is to understand different perspectives, communist perspective, nationalist perspective, Dalit perspective, again here, liberal perspective, Gandhian perspective, in that regard. So then we will be going into the aspect of the salient features of the Indian constitution. So same thing, same to same what is there in Lakshmikant. What is that? India has a written constitution, India is the largest constitution, India has federal features, unitary features, etc. You go on what are the important features. Then we go on to read same thing, what is there? Preamble. No different. What you read in GS, same to same in political sense. Sir, how is my answer different? There is no need to write. See, I will tell you one misconception what was there for me also. When I was preparing, many used to tell, don't write your GS answer like political science. And I never understood at that point of time what is political science. I always used to use scholars and write. I used to get always high marks in political science, like 280, 290. But always I scored low in GS paper 2. Always, I never crossed 80. It was a puzzle, PSR I am getting high marks. Why I am not getting in GS2? There is a middle path. Some people will plainly tell of what, don't write like political science. That was in my head. Whenever I used to write GS answer, I used to write plain answers. If they write about preamble, just write preamble is that. I never used to add any quotes. My thinking was what, that you have to only use in political science, not in GS. See, it's not like that. You have to use quotes even in your GS paper. Don't write any thinker. Right, in preamble you can tell like N.A. Falkiwala, he told preamble is the identity card of the Indian constitution. That you can write even in GS paper. It's not that you won't write. If you write, you will get actually more marks than a person who has not written anything else. Again a point, I never used to write court cases. I never had that idea only. In GS2 you have to write case laws. I never used to read case only. I used to read only cases which are required for political science. GS2 they used to give questions, federalism, cooperative federalism is a challenge. How I used to write in GS, in political science it would have been different. I would have read, Granville Austin told this, etc. Then Bommai case. GS were never, I used to write, center state relation, these problems are there. I never used to write committees, I never used to write Bommai case, I never used to write mini court exam. And that is what later I understood when I became a faculty, when I started evaluating papers. Now I understood why I used to get low marks in GS2, because my answers were purely simple, it did not have anything in that regard. I never used to write articles. This is where people will get confused. Sir, political science I have to write very differently, GS, no. In some areas it is different, but in these areas it is same. What you write as a PSIR answer, you can also write as a GS answer. Where it differs is that, like questions if they ask on secularism, there in political science you have specific scholars like Pratap Banu Mehta, you have, there is one more person, I forgot his, Yogendra Yadav. That you do not need to write in GS papers, just write about what comes. But there you have to write, in Bommai case they told secularism is the basic structure of Indian constitution, that you have to include in your GS answer also. That thinking I did not have when I used to write GS papers. So that is why in GS2 I always used to get less marks, but that was the political science I used to get more marks. So I always wondered why it used to happen like this. So that is why there is a very thin line that you will understand once you start to read. Okay, so there is no greater difference how you write PSR and how you write GS2, but I will tell where the difference lies and where to be done. So in preamble same thing, you read about what is preamble, why preamble, what is the importance of preamble. Preamble is similar to what? Preamble we compare it to what in Indian constitution? It is comparable to what? The objective resolutions brought by Jawaharlal Nehru. Why we say it is similar? Objective resolution was also directions given to the Constituent Assembly that what kind of constitution we want to have. So there is one difference, okay, one difference is that in objective resolution, if you read, they have mentioned the word sovereign independent republic, but in our preamble we have mentioned sovereign democratic republic. That is one difference which is there. Then we will go into saying that is preamble amendable, preamble is not amendable, this Berubani Union case, Keshananda Bharati case, what has been said. And if you look at the questions also pretty straightforward, they have asked preamble is the identity card of the Indian constitution, N.K. Falkiwala, comment, what would you write? They have asked this question in previous year PSR paper, preamble is the identity card of the constitution, comment. Now one student wrote, he told preamble is the introduction of constitution, good. He told preamble is non-justiciable in nature, good. Then he told preamble has the word sovereign social democratic republic and it was added by the word socialist secular what is integrity was added by the 42nd constitution. Then he went on to write in Beruvani Union case they told preamble is not part of the constitution. Then he told in Keshananda Bharati case they told preamble is part of the constitution, it can be amended. His answer is done. Now you are the evaluator. Question is that preamble is the identity card of the constitution, he has written this answer, correct only. The every piece of information what is written 100% correct, but still he will get less than 2 marks, not even 2 marks, because he has not answered the demand of the question, he has just written what he knows. So question they are asking you that you need to explain how preamble is an identity card. See now you have joined insights, they will give you an identity card. What is the use of an identity card? It will tell who are you, what is your blood group. It will enable a person to know about you in a summarized way, those who do not know you. Similarly, preamble in a summarized way, those who cannot read the whole constitution, it gives what is the identity of India. What is the identity? We are a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. It gives information about what kind of goals our state wants to achieve. What kind of goals? Justice, equality, liberty, fraternity. It also gives information about who is the source behind or the power behind our constitution, we the people of India. That is why it is called as the identity card of the Indian constitution. And then you can also read in which case was that? In Beruvari Union case, I don't know which case was they told, the Supreme Court told, if you want to understand the minds of the makers of the Indian constitution, you have to look at the preamble. I forgot in which case it is not in Keshavananda case, it was in previous case. It unlocks the minds of the makers, that you can write as a conclusion in your answer, then you will get high marks. So if the question, let us think it is asked in GS paper, same question is asked in your general studies. Now tell me how your answer will be different. There is no need of difference, write the same answer. See, why I am telling you that there is a lot of myths in UPSC. Unless you write or you have written, you won't understand is it true or what is wrong. That is what I tell. When I tell, some used to tell that don't write your GS answer like PSI answer. That stuck in my head. So what I used to write? I used to write very general answers. So otherwise marks won't be reflected. But there are areas where you write PSI answer differently, you write GS answers differently. That I will indicate in coming chapters. So then we are going to read about fundamental rights. Okay. Then we are going to read about DPSP. Then we are going to read about fundamental duties. Now coming here. Now many will tell, sir, what to read in fundamental rights? I am going to read Lakshmikant. Is it fine? Yeah, good, fine. You will understand what is fundamental rights. But in exam, even if you take GS paper or even if you take political science paper, they won't ask questions like what is fundamental right? Write the fundamental rights related to liberty. UPSC they won't ask, KPSC they might ask, but KPSC also has improved now. They are also asking analytical questions. They are mainly going to ask you on certain areas. Okay, so here you don't need to sit and by heart all the articles etc. Mainly they are going to ask based on issues related to fundamental rights, both in GS as well as in PSIR. There is no difference in that regard. Now the answer also remains the same here also. Let us think one question that asked in GS paper. That question can come, same question can come in political science paper also. I think in 2017 they had asked. The question they had asked is that discuss to what extent the scope of fundamental rights in India has widened since the Puttaswamy case. Okay. Let us say this question is for 15 marks. Let us say the question is asked in both PSR. In GS2 already they have asked. Okay, but I don't know exactly, but the meaning of the question comes similarly. Now tell me what will be your answer, because I think most of you have read polity. What is the question? They have told discuss what extent the scope of fundamental right has widened post Puttaswamy case. First of all, you have to know Puttaswamy case. So in Puttaswamy case they declared right to privacy is a fundamental right. So what is the question asking? After this decision by Supreme Court, they are asking your opinion. Has fundamental rights widened in India? You can write the Puttaswamy case was a landmark case where it has given momentum to many other fundamental rights. For example, in Hadia case, they told right to marry is a fundamental right because it is your personal choice. Then in Anuradha Schonbach case, they told right to die with dignity is also part of your Article 21. And the biggest impact of Puttaswamy case was the IPC section 377, decriminalization of homosexuality, Suresh Kaushal versus the Nash Foundation case. So in a way we can say the scope of fundamental rights has been widened by the judgment given by the Supreme Court in Puttaswamy case. But however, it does not mean it is an absolute right. Reasonable restrictions can be imposed. So in Aadhaar case, the Supreme Court also told right to privacy is not absolute. Reasonable restrictions can be brought. So that is your answer. Whether you write for GS, whether you write for PSR. And that is why I told now in PSR also they will mainly ask questions on right to property, had been a consistent problem between the vision of the state and the rights of the individual. Comment. You have to explain that initially right to property was a fundamental right, then you have to write about state wanted to bring social reforms or land reforms, and many state governments brought land reform acts which went to court. Why they went to court? People went to court saying that right to property is my fundamental right, and then you have to write about the what is that, Golaknath case, and before that Shankari Prasad case, then Keshananda Bharati case. Then you have to write, in spite of what you can say, placing the laws under 9th schedule, still they ended up going to court, and that is why what Parliament in an unprecedented decision they did by the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978, they removed right to property from the fundamental right and they have made it as a legal right. As a legal right, what? You have protection against the arbitrary legislative action, arbitrary executive action, but you do not have protection against arbitrary legislative action. If you want to add more current affairs, you can add in the recent case, that is Vidya Devi case versus Himachal Pradesh, they have told right to property is also your basic human right. Okay, Vidya Devi case was related to, Vidya Devi was a old woman, uneducated. So what had happened few years back in Himachal Pradesh government, they acquired her land and they had not given compensation. She also did not apply for compensation because she did not know the law, etc. But after some 14 years, she went to court saying that she wants compensation, she has been not adequately compensated by the state. The state of Himachal Pradesh said that the Supreme Court itself, in one of the cases, they brought something called as doctrine of adverse possession. Doctrine of adverse possession. This they can ask you in prelims also. What is the doctrine of adverse possession? It basically means it is a Supreme Court ruling or a doctrine developed by Supreme Court. If somebody is staying in a property for more than 12 years and the owner of the property has not made any effort to have a legal claim. What is legal claim? You should have filed a case, sent a notice, you have done nothing, but you come after 12 years and tell I have a right in property, they won't entertain. Again, why they did it is because now when property disputes comes, now you will have your sister's brother, son, somebody is there, is after 10 years he will come and he will tell even I have a right in property. This will become a burden on courts. So 12 years you have not done anything, you no longer you are party to the case. So the Himachal Pradesh told Vidya Devi didn't come in last 12 years, ask for any kind of legal notice, so we cannot give her the compensation. The case went to Supreme Court. The Supreme Court used due process of law. They didn't go by procedure established by law. Yeah, they told, yeah, procedure is there. They told we are going to take a larger period. She is uneducated. She didn't know the law of the land. And that is why in that judgment, they told the Himachal Pradesh government should give 1 crore compensation to her. And they told doctrine of adverse possession does not apply in this case. And in that judgment, they told right to property is also a human right in that case. So that is one latest current affairs, what you can add it in your answer, saying that right to property today, it is a legal right as well as a human right according to Vidya Devi case. Same. Here your answer won't be any different from political science to GS paper 2. And even in DPSP, don't worry sir, should I buy out all the DPSP articles? Prelims, yeah, you have to know which is Gandhian article, which is liberal article. Political is not, nobody is going to ask question, right, Gandhian principles, no. One example, what question they ask. So in these areas how we will go is that basic will deal what is DPSP and we will take up previous year questions. Through solving previous year questions we will know what is the content. So 1 year they have asked a question, increasing importance to DPSP in recent times, comment. This is the question. What is the question? Increasing importance to directive principle of state policy in recent times. And the question they have given, comment. Now how will you address this question? What wants to provide? No, why there is increasing welfare schemes? Why the state want to uplift? So doing before they didn't want to uplift, now they have suddenly realized they want to uplift. See, you are giving examples. Recently UCC is in news, cow slaughter bill is in news. Yeah, point is that why there is DPSP is becoming increasingly important. So what you have to write is that first, before the state did not have enough resources. Today India is one of the third largest economy in terms of power purchasing parity. Today we have got resources to implement DPSP. Second reason, politics is becoming too competitive. Today every political party, irrespective of their ideology, they follow one or the other form of socialism. BJP follows Gandhian socialism, the left parties follow Marxian socialism, the Congress also follows Nehruian socialism. So they want to attract the voters. If they want to attract the voters, they are implementing many things which are DPSP in that regard. For example, they brought maternity benefits bill, they brought free legal aid, Manrega program has been introduced. The other reason is that the Supreme Court has given decisions to the government in many cases they have to implement in environmental related cases, in women empowerment related cases. Civil society in India today has become very powerful. Back those days state was very powerful. Today we have a very strong, vibrant civil society. They are able to influence the government to implement many DPSP. For example, you take Manrega program was designed, and it is not only by the state, there are many civil society groups who played a key role. They are offering, that is why today DPSP is becoming increasingly important. And then you can add a point that after India went through liberalization, privatization, globalization, we witnessed economic growth, but also we are witnessing what increasing inequality. COVID-19 happened, many people came to streets. So it was the duty of the state to implement many schemes. So under DPSP they brought many schemes. Hence you can write DPSP is becoming increasingly significant. This is all not there in your book. This only comes through solving previous year question paper and analyzing. Again, mind, prelims they will ask you, DPSP, is it justiciable? No, it is not justiciable. DPSP comes under part 4 of the constitution, article 36 to 51. That is facts by heart. That is not useful for UPSC. And I am not telling not useful means you need to know, but beyond that you also have to know to analyze things. Okay. So that is how they might ask you the questions in the exams. Okay. Or they might ask a question, comment on the divergence between DPSP and fundamental rights. So you have to write where there is conflict between fundamental rights and DPSP. There you also have to write about court cases. What is a court case? The 25th constitutional amendment, 24th constitutional amendment, and the Supreme Court's decision, what they told. They told, they agreed with the parliament that when you implement 39B and C, that can violate 14 and 19, but for other fundamental rights will have superior position over directive principle of state. So there you have to start. In Golaknath test they told fundamental rights are sacrosanct. In Keshavananda Bharati case they told you can amend fundamental rights but without damaging the basic structure. Minerva Mills case what they told, plain and simple, and give examples. DPSP article 44, Uniform Civil Code, the same constitution under fundamental rights article 25 says that you can follow your own religious practices, culture, etc. There is a growing divergence in that. So this is area you understood, right? What kind of issues will be digging? We are not just interested in reading the facts, we are also interested in learning the analysis of it. Similarly for fundamental duties, nobody is going to ask you write 11 fundamental duties. They are going to ask questions that, do you think fundamental duties have to be made justiciable in nature, critically analyze and bring valid arguments. So we will be reading again different viewpoints. Some people do say that we have to add more fundamental duties. Some people say that what is the use of adding more fundamental when the duties which are there are not been added. Some people say that what duties what we have, many of them are not relevant to present times. So for example, they have told right to pay tax has been not included, right to vote in elections has been not included. In India is the largest black economy, why people do not pay their taxes. And they have told bring new kind of duties, because today we are living in an era where we are moving towards climate resilience in that regard. So India cannot become green economy without having green people. What do you mean by green people? without people becoming climate conscious, you cannot tell the nations will become climate conscious, because a nation is a reflection of the individual. That is what Plato told. He told there is no difference between state and individuals. There is a quote now, state is individual writ large. State is nothing but bigger version of an individual. If you have good individuals, you will have good state. If you don't have good individuals, you don't have good state. Same view has been reflected by Ambedkar. There is no good constitution, bad constitution. A constitution, how good or how bad, it is determined by the people who run the state. Same thing. So here we will be looking into those aspects. What are the new fundamental duties that can be added? Okay, some people say that don't just add fundamental duties, make sure that whatever are there, that is first implemented. Build consciousness. Okay. Then you are going into center-state relations. Then you are going to federalism. Same to same, your Lakshmikant thing. Then we are going to read about what is that, the judiciary. So again here we are not going to every article, we are analyzing judiciary. What is the role of judiciary? What is the issues of judiciary? There is a scholar called as Rumapal, ex-judge. She has written that Indian judiciary suffers from something 9 sins or 7 sins of Indian judiciary. 7 problems of their Indian with respect to appointment, with respect to delivery of justice, corruption, etc. So we will be analyzing Indian judiciary in that regard. Okay, what are the problems? Don't worry about like prelims, sir, what is the original jurisdiction of judiciary? No, largely we will see it. So there can be questions saying that judiciary India has played a very key role in bringing social reforms. Comment. Straightforward, you have to write about judicial activism. Give example, Vishaka guidelines. Okay, you can also give the example of what MC Mehta case, environmental reforms, or Prakash Singh case where they brought police reforms, or you can also take the decriminalization of IPC section 377, giving equal rights to people from LGBT community, or Sabrimala case where they allowed women to enter temples in that regard. You can write what are the social reforms, but you have to also write answers where judiciary has failed to bring social reform. So there is a view, this view is given by Pratap Bhanu Mehta. He says that judiciary has become overactive. Okay, they are taking up PALs, etc. But they have forgotten their fundamental duty that they have to dispose cases quickly. So in their verge of taking up PLs and all, the cases which are pending, they have become delayed. So what we say, justice delayed is justice denied. There are a lot of people in jails without a proper, what you can say, trail, under trails, there are a lot of under trails. So we have failed, and most of these under trails belong to which community? Scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, minorities. So you can bring different. So in every political science answer, in most of the questions, you have to write a balanced answer, right? Thesis, antithesis and synthesis. But again it depends upon what is the question. If somebody is given a question is that Hitler, the question on Hitler, you cannot go and write there are positives about Hitler, then write like or there is a question they say that corruption should be legalized in India, comment. You cannot tell yes corruption should be legalized, there are positives, then you can't. It depends upon the question. You can point. But in this type of question you can write. So here we will be reading about judiciary, analysis of article 142, judicial activism, judicial overreach, judicial review, and here you have to know court cases. Okay. See, I am telling you these areas are all easy. What you need to do is that solve all the PYQs and go for the exam. Trust me, if you solve all the PYQs, you have ready-made answers for the PYQs. 100% you will do well in paper 1. Questions will repeat. They are not asking anything new. They are just asking it in different ways. Amen. The same question, the formulation of the question, wordings are different, but the theme what we say, it remains the same. Judicial activism, judicial overreach, article 142. Okay, 1 year they have asked in GS paper also, women judges are very less, critically analyze. You have to write why we have less number of women judges. You can give reasons. One court lacks necessary infrastructure. 68% of district courts do not have separate toilets for women in that regard. Many women courts do not have daycare facilities. If they are pregnant, if they have children, they cannot bring them to court. Second one, the court atmosphere is more patriarchal, male dominated. It is uncomfortable for women to work in that regard. Fourth one, our judicial education system itself, less number of women take up legal education. It is mainly seen as a field of men, patriarchal society in that regard. Fourth one, you can also say that in the collegium also, they are mainly appointing male judges, female judges very less, because at lower level there are not many advocates, female advocates only. Na? So then you have to provide solutions also. Why do we need women judges? Why do we need women judges? If you have only male judges, men can only think from a male point of view. In children related issues, in women related issues, women judges will be more gender sensitive. And in rape cases, if there is a woman judge, it is much easier for the victim to express her opinion compared to a male judge. And women can also give a different perspective on many cases in that regard. And you can also read in panchayats where women reservation is there, these panchayats have been less corrupt, more efficient in that regard. And naturally you can say when women constitute 49% or 50% of the population, naturally that equal representation should be there in judiciary as an institution also. Same thing if you take how many, India has never had a woman chief justice. I think Nagaratna will become the first, if she becomes the first woman chief justice. Currently I think in 32 judges we have 3 or 4 or 2, how many, 2 or 4 women judges in that regard. Percentage is very less. Same thing, this I don't know, Rumapal, she is also criticized what? If you take Supreme Court and High Court, how many Dalit judges are there? Very less. How many tribal judges are there? Very less. So you are only looking at inclusion at 2 organs of the government, legislative and executive, but you are not looking at representation of what? Judiciary. Judiciary has been unrepresented. So this is what we analyze in that regard, what are the problems of Indian judiciary and what are the possible steps. There are various committees in that regard. And there is also a nice debate in this collegium. So there was one debate in NDTV, not NDTV, Times Now, at that point of time, I think few years back when Arun Jaitley was alive, when he was the finance minister, and the debate was organized by Times Now. This Arnab Goswami, he was there. At that time he was a bit normal, he was not like what he is today. Normal he was in that time also he used to shout, but okay, controllable. So the debate was about, they had brought ex-judges, they had brought government representatives, like Arun Jaitley was one of the representatives, the Attorney General in that regard. They had a debate regarding which is better, NJAC or collegium system. See, many times what we do, only we read books, we read articles. Many times we read articles also, we won't understand the exact word. When you see these kind of videos, because we will play in videos in class, in certain videos, for you to understand a perspective. So the ex-judges, they told, no, NJAC is not acceptable. Why? It compromises on judicial independence. They told the constitution has created 3 organs and 3 organs have to be independent. So one of the ex-judges, they told, where will the people go tomorrow if their rights is violated? Will they go to parliament or will they go to court? And he told they will go to court, they won't go to parliament. And hence he told you should not have a judiciary which is under the control of the executive in that regard. So for that Arun Jaitley gave a very interesting reply. He told among all the dignitaries who have sat there, he told I am the only person during emergency who went to court, because Arun Jaitley was arrested. During emergency all opposition leaders were arrested. In the ADM Jabalpur case, the Supreme Court didn't give me justice. Because what they told in ADM Jabalpur case, they told Article 32 does not apply, it is suspended during national emergency. And who was the judge? I think it was Justice Bhagawati. Bhagawati, I think so, I don't know, I am not sure. So later he only told it's a mistake what I gave the judgment in that regard, few years later. So Arun Jaitley told, where did judiciary give justice? He questioned them. And Arun Jaitley put a question, he told how is NJAC totally different from collegium? He told if you have seen the NJAC structure, he told 6 members are there, 3 members from judiciary, law minister, 2 experts, and the experts are selected by a 3-member committee comprising of PM, CJ, leader of opposition. And they are told in 6 members, if 2 members they reject a name, you cannot forward that name. He told the same system is in collegium also comprising of CJ and 4 senior most judges. If 2 judges gives a contradicting opinion, you can't forward it. You don't know how it is different. And for this the judicial member, he told, look, you cannot have a committed judiciary. There is a probability that government will take over the control of judiciary and the judiciary will start. So he told judiciary should stand up to the government. They have to intervene when the government has failed. So he spoke about judicial activism. But for that Arun Jaitley gave a counterpoint. He said, okay fine, what you are telling is correct. If judiciary has failed, sorry, parliament has failed, executive has failed, it is very right that judges have to come and exercise article 142. Now he told, what if I give a counter question that you are not disposing cases on time, there is 3.5 crore pending cases, what if we tell now parliament will start disposing the cases because you are not doing your duty? So he told we should not reduce the argument to that extent. He told we have to work together to bring a system. So that is the bigger debate. The bigger debate is that we know there is a problem with collegium, but the problem is that we do not have a better alternative. That is the main problem. They are telling NJAC is not an alternative because NJAC there is always a danger that we will have a committed judiciary. So in prelims also they have asked this committed judiciary does not mean a judiciary which is committed to people. Judiciary which is committed to the government, the ruling government in power. And we also have to discuss about various problems in judiciary. For example, take our former Chief Justice, Mr. Ranjan Gogoi. That is what we say, there is a lot of conventions, but conventions are not sufficient enough to bring ethics or morality. Morality matters. So a master the roster system, Ranjan Gogoi, when there was a sexual harassment case against himself, he took up the case to his own bench, we say, which is conflict of interest. Or when Ranjan Gogoi retired as CJ, he became Rajya Sabha member. Many people wrote letters to him, don't accept the Rajya Sabha seat. See, it is not the question about you should not become or not, you have every right to become. It is the question of the integrity of the institution. You get my point? I am different, I am a normal man, I can go accept ticket, tomorrow I live inside, I will go accept ticket from BJP, normal. But if I am a judge of a Supreme Court, I have retired, now tomorrow you go and accept a ticket from a party or a Rajya Sabha seat, maybe there is nothing wrong between what you have done, but it sends a wrong message, right? So tomorrow they will tell, look, you are the judge in Amit Shah case, you gave him, what is that, you released him. Now they will tell that is why the BJP is giving you a gift. It is not about BJP, any government or government will offer, it is your duty not to accept it. Because it is not a question of you, it is a question of the institution what you have represented. Now people will question judiciary. So they will tell, okay, then judiciary is not fair enough. Right? Judiciary plays the role of what? It is the guardian of the Indian constitution. The duty of the judiciary is to what? The other 2 organs of the government should not breach the constitutional morality or the constitutional values. So they say if NJAC comes and if we have a committed judiciary tomorrow, then who is going to guard the constitution? Right? When the dog which you have kept to guard, so that will be a wrong, okay. So let us think the thing you have kept to guard your sheep, if that only becomes an wolf, then where is the protection? So that is a bigger debate, that can we reform collegium itself, or we have to design a new system where we say that the government does not have what you can say control over judiciary. You are getting a point. So we are not here in discussing about the smaller parts, article 131, no, political science mainly questions will come about the broader analysis. Same problem in Israel also, you can see an Indian judge is going and protesting in Israel, means support to Israel. Same thing there, the Benjamin Netanyahu government, they in Israel what happens, they have an 8-member committee in that regard to appoint judges in that regard. Now Israeli government wants to change it, they want to change it and they have to have more government control over the appointment. So there the reason what some say is that this Benjamin Netanyahu, or if you take the judiciary in this thing, current system what they have, the bar has greater powers in appointment judges, and most of the bar members are from left wing. Okay, so most of the judges are from left wing, but in Israeli politics if you see, the political parties which rule Israel are mainly right wing, not mainly right, they are right wing. The Likud party, which Benjamin Netanyahu, it's a completely right wing party. So there are many cases where executive and judiciary have come in conflict. Okay, for example, conviction of Benjamin Netanyahu. Now there are a lot of criminal cases or corruption cases against this Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. So they are telling that why they want to control judiciary, that tomorrow when the case comes up, that they want to put more number of judges who are in favor of the government, and so that will in a kind of way bring a committed judiciary. That is why there is a lot of protest happening. The Israeli diplomats themselves have protested. You can see they have closed down the embassy in India. They tell they are not going to operate if government does not withdraw their decision. So you can relate it to India also. In India also the same kind of system what we are facing. There is increasing conflict between judiciary and executive. You can see the government questioned the judiciary. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar in Rajya Sabha, he raised an issue saying that why should judges appoint themselves, and law minister issued many statements saying that collegium system has to go. And you can see the Supreme Court warned the Attorney General, they called the Attorney General, told the ministers are issuing irresponsible statement that we will be forced to take contempt charges against them. And now you can see the judiciary has struck back. Now they are questioning the government, why are you alone appointing with respect to Chief Election Commissioner? And that is what you can say, there is a friction, or what you can say, a cold war happening between the judiciary and executive. So we will understand that why this happens, what is the outcome. And we can also read like Israeli system, how we can benefit or what we can learn from Israel's lesson. So that is what the analysis part. Okay, so don't worry about here, sir, should we know all the cases, should we know all the articles? Simple. Take mains paper GS2 also, they won't ask any factual based question, mainly they will ask analytical based question. So that's why I told, if you are good in analysis, it is pretty easy because you no need to read much. If you understand very well, you can write good answers in your words. Then we will be going into the aspect of union executive as well as the state executive. So this is about what Prime Minister, Council of Minister, etc. Now again from a prelims or mains point of view, here we won't be reading about, like in prelims you read, Prime Minister is a person who can be, any person can be appointed as a PM without being a member of parliament, but he has to get elected within 6 months. These are all your prelim stuff. But here we will be mainly analyzing how or what are the roles of the Prime Minister. Why do we call India as a prime ministerial form of government? What is the role of the Prime Minister? We say Prime Minister is the sun around which all the planets revolve. He is also called as the keystone species. What is keystone species? It is central to the ecosystem. If the species is not there, all other species will die. So like that, the Prime Minister is the keystone species. So we will be learning about the role of the Prime Minister. And then we will be reflecting how the Prime Minister power has changed. So during Indira Gandhi and during Narendra Modi's time, you see Prime Minister position is highly powerful. Why? They come from majority parties, their personalities are similar in that regard. And other ministers are minions, means it is completely, you cannot imagine S. Jaishankar being appointed in any other government. Because your own party colleagues will fight against you, that why you appointed him, is just a new person. Because the Prime Minister position is so powerful, the own ministers cannot challenge the Prime Minister. But we also have to look at how did the position of Prime Minister change during coalition politics. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, H.D. Deve Gowda, Manmohan Singh. It became weaker. We have to analyze that. So that is what we will be reading here. Same thing regarding Council of Ministers, same thing regarding CM. CM, PM, no, same to same, different. Then we will be reading about Panchayati Raj institution and urban local bodies. Same to same, what is there in your GS paper 2. Then we will be also reading about constitutional bodies as well as Statutory bodies. Again, here don't worry about facts, 5 years, 6 years tenure. It is about analysis, like election commission. What are the reforms that election commission has to go through? From appointment, from funding, again a point. And similarly, you can see they won't ask randomly. They will ask some body which has been in news. Most probably this year, they will ask about Election Commission of India because it has been in news. Statutory bodies, National Commission for Women, National Commission for Backward Classes, National Commission for Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe. Same thing. For this, notes will be provided, not factual notes, analytical notes, positives, negatives, what are the improvement. You can just go through in that regard. Then the other part, you have party system in India. Okay, this is what is there, not there in your Lakshmi, it is there in Lakshmikant, but largely it is not a major topic in polity GS, but here it is a major topic. So we will understand about the structure of Indian party system. From the Congress rule, you can see Congress dominated the Indian politics from 1952 to 1969. 1969 we say it was a new era in Indian politics because for the first time in Indian political history, in state level, we had more than 50% of the governments which were from regional parties. Why that happened? And first we will analyze Congress system. You have Rajni Kothari, an important political scientist who coined the term Congress system, and we will tell how politics worked here. There was no center state conflict, everything was smooth, Prime Minister was highly powerful, and that is what we say. If Nehru screamed from Delhi, the CMs in South India would shiver because they were from same party and party high command played a key role. But they say role reversal happened during Manmohan Singh times because coalition politics. They told if Karunanidhi sneezed in Chennai, it was Manmohan Singh who caught cold in Delhi because now state governments became very influential, regional parties. So we will try to understand how it is changing. So we have to go into ideologies of party, ideology of BJP, ideology of Congress, ideology of CPI, ideology of Aam Aadmi Party. Not politically, you have to understand, just analyze. So if you look at BJP, if you look at BJP's rise, BJP initially if you see their ideology was not Hindutva. When initially BJP was born, okay, before they were part of Jansangh. In Jansangh they brought a rule saying that either you have to cut off your ties with RSS or you be part of Jansangh or you have to quit Jansangh. So that time we say Ram Lakshman of BJP, this L.K. Advani and who is that, Vajpayee. They came out of Jansangh, they established BJP, and initially BJP's ideology was Gandhian socialism. But that terribly failed in elections, they got only 2 seats, only with this Vajpayee and Advani won, all of them lost. And that too Vajpayee stood from 2 places, he only won from 1 place. And that is what they say, this Rajiv Gandhi presented BJP, India on a golden platter when he took the wrong decision in Shah Bano case where he reversed the decision and he took up this call also opening of Ayodhya temple for praying of Hindus because there was a court judgment. They told that judge was influenced by Rajiv Gandhi. And this is when BJP from Gandhian socialism they latched on to what? Hindutva. And that started giving results to BJP. So they went on to win many states. They became a Hindi belt party, means they were very strong in what we can say cow belt, that is Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh. And finally in 1998 BJP was able to form the government at center, through coalition in that regard. But you can see by 2014, that is what Ramchandra Guha says, that many people think that Congress is declining from 2014. No, Ramchandra Guha says that Congress is declining from 1980s. He says by vote share, if you go by vote share, Congress vote share in successive election has declined. You are getting a point, even when Congress came to power in 2004 to 2009, they did not come on their own support, they came with coalition, their vote share was less, it has decreased even less over the years. So we have to understand why did the Congress decline, why did the BJP replace Congress, and that is when Yogendra Yadav, he has coined a term called as second party dominant system. For the second time in Indian political system, one party is become dominant. That was Congress in first era, now it is the BJP. And the Modi's government was the first non-Congress government to form on its full support of its whole. So we have to understand of this new BJP system, how here party system works, what are the features of Indian political parties. Okay, same thing, we will also read about what is the status of regional parties. Why did regional parties rise in India? Are regional parties really effective in Indian politics? To what extent they are effective? This part we are going to cover. Then we are reading about pressure groups. Okay, first we will be understanding what are pressure groups, what are the different types of pressure groups. RSS is a pressure group. It is a non-associational pressure group. Then you have associational pressure groups. You have institutional pressure groups. Military is an institutional pressure group. You have anomic pressure groups. They use violence as a tool. For example, you can take the Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, Naxals in that regard. Okay. Then we will deal what is the role of pressure group in Indian politics. So this you would have also read in part A. You would have read about pressure groups in that regard. Okay, there is a theory, structural and functional approach. We will try to link the theory. Farmers groups, labor groups. Farmer groups were recently successful in making the government withdraw the farm ordinance. So we will go through an analysis that how do they work. Okay. Then you have land reforms. So I don't know, this is post-independent India now you are reading, because in GS paper 1 you have land reforms, you have green revolution. And questions have come in these areas. So green revolution can be studied in different ways. As an example, sociology also has green revolution. They study societal aspect of green revolution. Public administration also they study about green revolution. What was the administrative structure? Political science also will study about green revolution. We will study the political impact. After green revolution came, we can see rise of regional parties in India. We say now the politics, the rural farmers, they started entering parliament because they made money in green revolution. Regional disparity started to increase. Green revolution was only successful in western part of India, eastern part of India didn't. So there was large scale migration which happened from eastern part of India to western part of India, that gave birth to Khalistan movement, communalism between Hindus and Sikhs in that regard. So we will be understanding a political science point of view of what is green revolution. And finally we will be also going through planning. So there is Gandhian plan, there is Nehruian plan. We have to understand what is the difference between Gandhian plan and the Nehruian plan, positives, negatives of either one of them. And largely we will be looking at caste, religion, ethnicity in Indian politics. What is the role? We say people in India do not cast their vote, but they vote their caste. So caste has been a very powerful. So we have to see, is even today caste playing a key role, or the role of caste has it declined? Okay. Recent example, you can still caste is, you can give many examples. Recent demand for OBC census is an example of, or in Karnataka, these Muslims were removed and two new categories, 3C and what is that? 2C and 2D were created. This indicates what? Caste based politics. But here one or two scholars will be there that will try to analyze what is their viewpoint. This holistically comprises of political science paper part B. So if you see, this is more of what? GS paper 2, similar, but you are also reading bit of GS paper 1, that is modern history and post independent India. Got the point? Any doubts in this part? For this I told source Lakshmikant, along with you can read class notes, mainly class notes, but there are certain reference book. There is an Oxford book on Indian politics, a green color book that you can use it. It has good content, good examples. Okay, but largely you will be banking on what? Lakshmikant, then class notes, then what else? The Oxford book on Indian politics. So you have any doubt for offline students or online students with respect to this part of the syllabus? Okay, is this a free series on YouTube? No, this is only first few classes are free. So then from Friday, only those who have admission, they will be only allowed. It's only for first or fourth class to demo class, because people will have doubts now that is it good or not, should we go to Shubhra Ranjan still. So for that we have launched it on YouTube for both students in Delhi and Bangalore to know that what we are looking in political science. So in tomorrow we'll do a brief decipher of paper 2, then we'll be starting Plato. Tomorrow we'll start with Plato. So what we'll be starting, first we'll go into the idea of what is political thought, what is the difference between political philosophy and political thought, then we'll understand what is the Greek political thought, then we'll start with Socrates, ideas of Socrates, then we'll try to cover Plato. So We will be covering Plato, it will go till Thursday. Okay, so we will be completing Plato as part of what? Our demo classes in that part. So any other doubt what you have in today's session regarding the syllabus? So that's why I told, first decode the syllabus well, because if you decode the syllabus, then you know what exactly to study and how much to study. If you blindly start your preparation saying that just I have books, I have pen and I have paper, I'll start writing and reading something, it won't be a planned approach. So first try to decode the syllabus, understand the syllabus, look at previous year questions mainly, understand in what perspective they ask these questions, then you'll come to know what to study and how to study. This applies even to your GS papers, not only political science. Anything you do, you have to use the same tactic. Syllabus decode, previous year question paper, then try to prepare accordingly, because you will know, right, what to read, how much to read, what to read in that book. If you don't have any idea of what kind of questions are come, you will be blind as a bat. Understood? So any doubt you have in this part? If you have any doubts, you can ask. So class also it should be interactive, it's just that I keep speaking and going and you just keep listening. The subject is only that, political science, we have to discuss, we have to debate. You can disagree, we can agree on certain things. Any doubt in this part? Okay, if there is no doubt, then tomorrow same timings it will be. See, for now you don't try to bother about it, how to identify political science related issues. First you read your basic concepts. Once you read your basic concept, then you will have much knowledge to know, okay, this article is useful for me for this chapter. So in starting only don't try to go beyond identifying reading articles. So I will also tell which articles will be important as we proceed. Okay. So what kind of articles is that too much political issues can be avoided. Let us say there is an no, see, political in the sense like there will be some articles will speak about foreign policy, that what is happening in India and Ukraine, that will be important. But there is some article only scolding Congress or scolding BJP, this you can neglect, it won't be required. Because that you will know now, if you see news also you will know what is happening. If you see Arnav Goswami will explain better than what is happening. So that you will gain over a period of time. You cannot tell from day only when you will be able to identify, maybe after a month or so you will get an idea that which article is important or not. Anybody else? Vikram Reddy, I am a working employee, so the class tends with, no, the class timings was supposed to be to 7 to 10, but they have reorganized that all the optional batches will be either at 2 slots, that is 2:30 to 5 or 5 to 8. So political science has been allotted 2:30 to 5. So that will be the optional timings. So Vikram, it won't be 7 to 10, it will be 2. So if you can't watch live, you have to watch it recorded. You can't sit live, so that evening you have to watch recorded, or tomorrow morning to watch it recorded. What about IR part? IR part we are doing tomorrow, that is the paper 2. We are going to decipher how to deal with IR, because IR some people have concern that how to approach, that we will do tomorrow, that how to approach IR. But IR is actually much easier than this, that you will understand once we go through it. Any other doubt for the online students? Okay, then we will meet tomorrow, same timings.